everyone, before we keep going here, I need to tell you about our teammates at Darby Communications. Like I've been telling you, if you run an outdoor, an endurance, or an active lifestyle brand, there is no better PR and digital marketing belay partner or drinking buddy than Darby. They can help your business reach new heights, and they might just keep you from falling on your ass. Since we started working with Darby, more and more people, and this is an important point now, guys, I want you to hear me on this, more and more people have reached out to us here at The Rock Fight because of that messaging. Look, guys, I'm dead serious. If they can help us, they can help anybody. Hit them up at darbycommunications.com. Do it today. Welcome to The Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today, Adam Kramer from the Outdoor Alliance joins me to talk about public lands. But before we get to that, if you missed all of our shows this week, go back to hear Monday's episode and learn about the impossible tariff decision facing brands, and listen to Wednesday's episode to hear Shantae Salabert and I discuss some recent stories to come out of the outdoor community. And hey, are you heading to Switchback this June? If so, be sure to put The Rock Fight live on your agenda for Tuesday, June 17th at 5 o'clock in the Trailheads Theater. I'm going to be there. Producer Dave is going to be there. Owen's going to be there. Shantae's going to be there. If Switchback is going to be the event of the summer, this will be the event at the event. Don't miss it. And hey, stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Rock Fight, Rock Fight, Rock Fight.
Hey, everyone. Let's dial things back. It's time for a new segment we're calling Catalog Lullaby. And today, we're featuring catalog copy for the Arn Pax Mountain Magic 50 Pro backpack.
The Arn Mountain Magic 50 Pro. It is no surprise that this pack is a thru hiker favorite. It weighs just around 1 kilogram. It weighs just around 1 kilogram and has a free-flowing harness system and comfy dual adjustment hip belt. This is your catalog lullaby, sweet dreams.
Plan to visit Arn at Switchback or GOA Connect this June. If you can't make it there and you're not too sleepy, head to arnpax.com. And hey, sweet dreams, everyone. So tariffs have obviously been a huge story for the outdoor industry, and we've been talking about them a ton here on The Rock Fight. But the other major story that has been top of mind both for our community and industry has been the issues surrounding public lands. And we've talked about that too. But the tariff situation has really kind of sucked the oxygen out of the room lately. But this week, there have been some developments that are nudging the threats to our public lands to the front of the pack. Like we talked about on this Wednesday's episode of The Rock Fight with Shantae Salabert, last Friday, the Trump administration released their budget guidelines for 2026, which included upheavals for the Park Service, including things like transferring national park sites over to state control, as well as a number of cuts to things like the NPS Historic Preservation Fund. And this past Wednesday night, as part of a mega bill Republicans in Congress are trying to pass, an amendment was voted on to sell off somewhere between 11,000 and 500,000 acres of public lands in Utah and Nevada. And all of this follows the budget and staff cuts that have gutted our national parks and our Forest Service over the past few months. But if there's a frustrating thing when there's a crisis-based situation like this, it's where to go for information and where to take action. We've had Jess Turner on from the Outdoor Rec Roundtable. We've also had Kent Ebersol on the show from the Outdoor Industry Association. But one group we haven't had a chance to talk to yet is the Outdoor Alliance, which is a nonprofit that protects the interests of most of the human-powered outdoor sports we talk about here on The Rock Fight. Adam Kramer is the CEO of the Outdoor Alliance, and he's here today to talk about who the Outdoor Alliance is, what's happening in D.C., and what we should all be doing to participate in protecting our public lands. And these conversations aren't going to end after today. After we stopped recording, Adam and I talked about having more regular updates on the ever-evolving public lands conversation here on The Rock Fight, so stay tuned to hear more on that front. But in the meantime, welcome back to The Rock Fight, where today we're talking about the threat to our public lands with Adam Kramer. All right, we're here today with Adam Kramer, the CEO of the Outdoor Alliance. Welcome to the show, Adam. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, Colin.
How are things in DC? And I mean, like, just in general, not like what you think I mean. We're going to get into what you think I mean, but in general, how's life in DC on May 7th? Pretty good?
It's great. It's great. Weather's good. Good vibe. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Are we past the cherry blossoms? They've come and gone?
Oh yeah, way in the rearview mirror.
As a paddler, do you get to the point where the Potomac is like just bathwater in the summertime when you can just go out and paddle around? There's a PFD, no dry top, any of that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, rash guard. Yeah, you got to protect for the sun. But yeah, for sure. It's probably in the 70s now. The
The
Potomac.
water temp?
Yeah.
That was fast.
Oh yeah.
That heats up quick. Where are the headwaters of the Potomac?
Like West Virginia.
Okay.
And the border between Virginia and Maryland.
Yeah.
That's the Potomac, and then the Shenandoah dumps in at Harper's Ferry.
Right.
But it's like the watershed's really big. It's like 12,000 square miles.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of water, endless supply of water. It's like makes it the best whitewater city in the world.
Okay. We're just scrapping the whole outline. We're going to get into that. The best whitewater city in the world?
Yeah. As far as the
this.
city,
I love this.
as far as a big
Suck
city,
it, West Coast. You're not getting it. This Adam Kramer says no. It's DC. Let's go.
totally. I got class 5, 365, 15 minutes from my house.
All right, well, let's get into the actual stuff, which I'm sure is dominating your life these days. And I kind of want to start a little more broadly, though, before we kind of get into what's happening in the day-to-day. Because I think there's things that are still confusing when it comes to who does what in advocating and working on behalf of our public lands, right? Everyone in the industry are definitely familiar with what we've had on, Jess Turner from the Outdoor Rec Roundtable. We've had Kent Ebersol on from the OIA. You're the CEO of the Outdoor Alliance. And it's not so much to understand that, there's basics that we can understand about what all the organizations do, but it's more like some clarification I think is important for the outdoor community, especially when we're at a time when people are going to be asked to do certain things and where's the messaging coming from. So let's just start with, what is the Outdoor Alliance?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit organization, conservation organization. We unify the voices of backcountry skiers and paddlers and mountain bikers and climbers and surfers to conserve and protect the places that they love. And we're also a coalition. In addition to being an organization, we're made up of these 10 organizations that have been around doing amazing work for decades, like IMBA and Access Fund and the American Alpine Club. And what we do as Outdoor Alliance, we bring these organizations and their respective constituencies together to throw down for public lands and waters.
So why, and I say this and take this in the best way possible, why do we need both the Outdoor Alliance and like the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable?
Oh, yeah. Different constituency. Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, the memberships are businesses and organizations that, build and sell things. And they have got their own agenda, and it's important, and it makes sense for them to form coalitions and advocate for that agenda. And our constituency are people, right? And more specifically, like kayakers and mountain bikers and climbers and surfers, individual people, human beings that might use a lot of the products that the folks at ORR sell or OIA sell, but it's a different perspective, a different sensibility. And is there alignment between ORR and OIA and Conservation Alliance? Absolutely. And that's what makes things really pop when you find that alignment. But it's a different constituency.
Yeah, and I ask this question not to like cast doubt, but more just to clarify, right? Because it is, so we had, Paul on from the Conservation Alliance, and he came on because I was chatting with the head of comms over at Patagonia about what was going on for the brands for public lands. And then there's also then the Outdoor Industry Association, which advocates on behalf of some of those brands, but they felt like, hey, Paul's the one who's really heading up this initiative. And then I know in talking with Jess that the roundtable is a little more, it's broader, right? They represent the 92 different categories or whatever it is in the BEA report, right? They kind of cover all the categories of all outdoor rec. It's not just kind of the stuff maybe that you or I are into doing personally. And so if you're saying, you're more of like, if you're an outdoor enthusiast and you're kind of interested in what's happening with public lands, you might be a good resource for that. I guess ultimately when it comes down to it, I don't think of these things probably under most normal circumstances, but when we're kind of being bombarded with the fire hose of public lands are under threat, all of the stuff's coming out of our presidential administration, it's a little like, well, who should I be listening to? Like, where should I go for my information? And it's not to say that anybody has bad information. It's just sometimes it can be simpler to be like, no, listen, what are you interested in? Here's where you go for that info. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's like, who's your tribe? Who are the people you like hanging out with? You know? And, they're going to adjust content and opportunities based on their constituency, the people that they represent, and the people to whom they're accountable. We're accountable to climbers. We're accountable to mountain bikers. So we look at the world from that perspective. And if you're a mountain biker, or you're a climber, you're a surfer, the stuff that we have and the opportunities we present might feel more comfortable, more familiar, more inspiring. But it's usually these organizations you're talking about, we work a lot together.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question.
Yeah, we're not at cross purposes. So like, go where it gives you joy, where you feel comfortable. That's where you should go.
So there is collaboration though between the organizations. You guys are in contact with each other on a regular basis?
Yes, and has been for years. And they're all delightful, highly effective people and organizations.
That's so nice. I still think there's probably some behind the scenes strife. There's got to be some like good throwdowns. Come on.
We're on rock fight, right? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, come on, let's talk about the motorsports right now. Come on. No, human powered rules. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to go there. All right. Well, thank you for clearing that up. I think but I think it's an important distinction, right? Because again, it is, if you have an Instagram feed like mine and you're kind of like, zipping through and seeing what's going on, and there's like different voices kind of championing some of the same things, at a higher level, it just can get a little maybe overwhelming. And so kind of like to put a, stamp on like, this is how you should engage as an enthusiast with each of these organizations, or what you might seek them out for in terms of information. I just think it's just helpful.
Yeah, it's like stereo vision, you have different perspectives and you can see things in 3D, and you got, you pull the stuff together, you have a clearer sense of what's going on, and you understand their perspective, and helps you navigate the world a little better. So,
right on. Well, speaking of the world, let's talk about what's happening in the world. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, when it comes to public lands, we've seen or heard the following. We've had a leaked document from the Department of Interior detailing the Trump administration's plans for public lands. Last week, the administration itself released their budget guidelines for 2026, which included upheavals for the Park Service, including things like transferring national park sites over to state control and cutting things like the NPS Historic Preservation Fund. The Forest Service and the BLM have been directed to come up with parcels ready for quote-unquote disposal. Agencies are sorting through their reductions in force, which are, or they're losing up to about 30% of their staff. That's on top of the cuts we've had a couple of months ago. So we could probably spend, our entire time listing out all these other things too. But how do you just sort of summarize, based on your history and working in this space, like what's happening right now in the United States as it pertains to our public lands?
It's pretty rowdy. It's a lot, right? And, I think there's, so where to begin, right? You talked about the Interior Department strategic plan and the budget. It's like there's an attempt to do a reset of what public lands mean, right? And there's this focus on extraction, almost like really interesting, curious, focus on extraction and energy dominance and oil and gas and mining and timber, and not, there's this shift from in the past was like, this idea of multiple use. You got all these different things that public lands provide: clean air, clean water, habitat, recreation, and extraction, and, timber. But like the goal is, how do we find a sustainable balance through time, right? So it provides benefit for the whole country. And what's going on now, as far as I could tell, is like, there's this effort to shift things in a really severe way towards, make things out of balance. So tilt towards extraction and development. And the narratives that they're using are, to make things cheaper, right? Over the short term, it's kind of a payday loan mentality. And thinking about all these resources as items on a balance sheet, which it's not like they don't have economic value. They do, but they also have all these other attributes of their value in terms of, they're part of our country, part of our identity. They're very meaningful beyond just the dollar figure, right? And that's just kind of pushed to the side. And this vibe of, or anxiety around national security, in terms of a justification for, energy dominance, it's like, oh my God, AI, we need a limitless source of, infinite energy to protect our country. It's like, come on, man. like,
Yeah.
not that national security is not important, but it's this shift from us how make sure everything kind of fits in a thoughtful way. And different people could have different ideas as to how to strike that balance to like, no, shove everything over, everything towards development extraction, everything over to the short term and not thinking about the long term. And that's kind of a through line that I'm discerning over the last, I don't know, since the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So January 20th, maybe, somewhere around there.
You know,
I think what's the vibe on Capitol Hill though, right? Because speaking of the beginning of the year, we're not that far removed from a unified Congress passing the Explore Act, right? We talk
Mhm.
about how, the outdoors is this nonpartisan topic, not even a bipartisan, a nonpartisan topic that everybody loves the outdoors for different ways and reasons. And generally speaking, when it comes to policy, there's always common ground to be found, and people. How many sponsored bills had both sides of the aisles on them from the past few years that didn't include public lands? Probably not that many. So what's the vibe on Capitol Hill? I mean, you're there, right? You see this on a somewhat regular basis. Is it just people hanging on for dear life? I mean, why aren't we hearing more from the people in Congress?
it's a bit fraught, right? Like the margins are really narrow in terms of the House and the Senate. Like there's a unified Republican government, but by like the smallest margins. Like, so it's really, really hard to get things done with those small
Sure.
margins. And I think like the vibe in terms of public lands or the vibe generally.
I'm both, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I think there's this sense that like the administration might be getting out over its skis a little bit. Like they came in and they want to shake up a bunch of things and changing and evolving things and making things better. Like that's good. It's a responsible thing to do. But there's like everything all at once and this kind of almost like a bit of a destructive vibe. Like
Yeah.
everything in DC is like a problem and needs to be taken down. Like I don't know, it's a little too far. And so I think there's this effort to reconcile the desire to make things a little better with the energy and the intensity that's makes it difficult to evolve things in an iterative, thoughtful way. It's like it's too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I keep coming back to on this is the premise is flawed in this, right? And it actually kind of pisses me off. I may have said this on an episode recently where, I'm generally very pragmatic on things, like even on this show, right? When I talk about I don't know, brands and sustainability. And and
Mhm.
people like, if mostly holding you accountable to your own public statements, brands, when you talk when it comes to sustainability,
Mhm.
if you're saying to me, hey, the outdoors matters and how we manufacture matters and everything, and then you find out you're like polluting a river in China to make your stuff, it's like, well, fuck off. No, you don't. Like, I will hold you to account for that. If you are
Sure.
going to say, we're going to make the stuff the cheapest possible and sell it for the biggest margins we can, I won't really support your brand or like what you do, but I like, hey, well, that's your prerogative to do it. And thank you for being honest with me so I can make my decision. And I think it's the same thing here, where this premise of, freaking Rand Paul said something, a couple of weeks ago when it came to tariffs about like the premise that there's an emergency here is not accurate, right? And that's Rand Paul. So the fact that we're just creating these quote unquote emergencies, especially when it comes to energy, when I think that we've had the biggest surplus of oil we've had in maybe a long time, is pretty dubious. And so, yes, couldn't there be an argument to be made that maybe there are some public lands out there that could be sold off to help a crisis of housing in a certain location? Maybe. I don't know, but if you make that case to me in a thoughtful way and point to it like, hey, no one's recreating here, and if we did this, we could do X, Y, and Z, and it would really help things. Well, I'm open to that conversation. But for you just to say, hey, there's an emergency, so we're going to do whatever we want and cut all these things and be really not thoughtful about how we go about it and lay people off and lay waste to departments who make sure that these things run properly. So yeah, I'm going to get angry about that, and like I think that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, well, I would like to hear some more voices sort of like saying no, right? And we're not, we want to be a little more vocal about this. I guess I don't really have a question in there. I just need to
No,
rant for a second.
but you kind of you've kind of articulated like this. It's like this emergency fetish, like this
Yeah.
fixation with like, oh, it's like everything's an emergency.
Well, it
I'm
gets
like,
them around Congress, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. Yeah.
Right. It's like, is it an emergency, or you just can't build some consensus and do some thoughtful piece of policy making? Oh, let's
Yeah.
make it an emergency. Not that emergencies don't exist, but like,
Not like this.
well, no.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of I don't know. It's disappointing, but we asked about Congress. It's like,
Yeah.
that's the hedge, right? I mean,
Right.
those people are accountable to you, to where you live. You got a congressperson, you got 2 senators. They're directly accountable to you as a constituent. And it kind of makes it into, like, it breaks government into this, you think of it, this huge thing, but your representatives and your senators make it much more accessible to you. And you can't like talk to everybody, but they'll listen to you. You got standing, and that matters. And then if you organize around that and start building some momentum around certain ideas, then your lawmakers are like, this is what I'm hearing back in the state and district. I got to take that into account in my decision making. So it's like, you look at all the stuff going on, and it's disorienting. It can be disappointing, but there is a play as a citizen, and more so if you're part of a community, like being part of the outdoor community. You got an agenda. You got certain things that are important to you. And there's like a way to communicate that as an individual, but also as a collective. And that kind of stuff matters. Those narratives matter. And we were talking before about this, this narrative of like shifting towards extraction, like everything all at once. And it's rickety policy.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than getting, nerding out and getting all lawyerly, you got to offset that with another narrative, a more hopeful narrative, something that makes sense to people and that people could relate to. And then the policy, it follows from the narrative. Like, if you get too wound up about policy and too outraged about certain ideas, not that you shouldn't be upset about them, but if you don't have like a substrate of a narrative, it's really hard to get anywhere. It's hard to get anything done. And that's what I think some of the superpower is within our community, in the industry. Like, we've got a sense of self. We got a pretty good narrative, and it resonates with people. And you said earlier, what's this? Is recreation bipartisan? Is outdoor bipartisan? Or is it transpartisan? Does it go beyond partisanship? And it's like, it does in certain regards, because everybody, regardless of your political stripe, you could project yourself into the outdoors. You could relate to it, in your own different version of it. And, that's a huge asset in navigating these times.
All right, folks, time to set the record straight. A few weeks back, listeners heard me rant on about a new sandal from Lem's Shoes. That sandal, the new Switchback sandal, was a classic single-strap, single-post style that I, without much knowledge, accused of being just like someone else. What I wasn't informed on was Lem's unique take on making footwear, and let's just say a few rocks were thrown back at me, and rightly so, because Lem's has really elevated the design of minimalist, natural movement footwear, anatomically correct, zero-drop comfort, and lightweight outdoor performance. And the Switchback? It's crafted from a single piece of material and features a unique single-strap design with one buckle for super ease of use, added comfort, and getting it on outside. You can go get yourself a pair right now at lemsshoes.com, where you'll also find that Lems is running a 20% off sale from now until May 11th. Oh, and hey, retailers, did you know that Lems is looking for wholesale partners? Hit them up at support@lemsshoes.com to add a little flavor to your shoe wall. And be sure to stop by and say hi to the Lems team at their booth at Switchback in Nashville this June. Check out the new Switchback sandal and all of Lem's shoes by heading over to lemsshoes.com. You're listening to Rock Fight Radio.
A ball sock for all times. It's no ordinary sock. It does what it says it does. Fit. Our socks marine, but they don't fall down. This sock fits better than your sock. A funky shaped sock that's an elegant solution to budging in the toes, heel slippage and falling down at the ankle. A sock with padded 10-inch structures that achieve whole foot comfort that you can really feel like whoa. A sock that acts like a base layer. A sock that's all about the base layer. A thermoregulating, moisture-wicking, body-forming base layer. Fits is a sock that fits better than your sock, maybe even the best sock ever. It really could be Fits, a bull sock for all times. It's no ordinary sock. It does what it says it does. Fit, 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 fit. It really could be Fits. layer.
Well, you got DJ CT right here with you, and that was Bold Sock, the first big hit we ever had from Fitz. Fitz has been knitting the hits since 2014 with their patented whole foot comfort approach to making fine gauge merino performance socks. They make some of the best basics in the biz. Retailers, make sure to stop by and say hi at GOA Connect this June. It will be sure to put a smile on your toes. And now, back to the show. I do wonder if that's the blend of the two is sort of I think I put in our outline, right? The outdoors could the outdoors become a third rail topic? That sort of gets some things happening, and I think the combination between public lands, like we saw, the linemen coming out of Montana over the last week, right?
Yeah,
For sure. Right, and even then on the tariff situation, like I said, Rand Paul speaking up, even if nothing was going to come of that. Like I just still see it as a sign of things heading in the right direction on that front, and just the impact that that specialty retail, that big box retail, that outdoor brands will have because of the tariffs, and then also because of a poorer version of a public lands policy. I do, everybody wants to think that, they're the most, they're the hero of the story. I do see a path here where the outdoors becomes the hero of the story here, right? And just like it becomes sort of the bandwagon that people could jump on to maybe, bring things back around in a positive way.
Hey, why not take that opportunity? I mean, if they'll have us to do that, to be the hero, why not? Right?
Well, yeah. We do need our leaders to speak up. If I'm a little angry at the Dems right now, it's like, hey guys, maybe you should talk a little more. Like you're sending strongly worded emails to people who are on podcasts and cable news, like yelling into microphones. It's not really working the same way,
It's difficult terrain for sure. Yeah. But I admire how the OIA came to town. They lobbied. Yeah. They had like their agenda. They met with people. They show up. TCA's coming to town next week, doing the same thing. A month before, I had all the CEOs of Outdoor Alliance, of the member organizations of Outdoor Alliance, went into town, met with Secretary Burgum, met with Congressman Zinke, met with these people that are making decisions, and informing how they think about things by channeling the values and the sentiments and the perspectives of our community. To talk about things that are really pressing these days, like how to fund the Forest Service, or whether people should be employed there or not, or public lands and tariffs and all of it. It's like it's rowdy, but like I'm sure you've heard that saying: the world is ruled by those who show up. Like you have to show up.
Yeah.
And our industry and our community, I admire that. They're showing up. They're being sincere. They're being earnest. They're not just like going to the basement and crawling up into a ball, right? Which some people do.
I do want to ask you about showing up. It's kind of the last thing I want to hit on, but I'm curious your point of view on this, right? So because you're right, it's all that, the group from the OIA and the NRF showing up. I believe they had a meeting with Secretary Burgum as well. And you see these meetings happening and people showing up, like you said. And then after all that, you still get the budget release about the way things are going to go down. I mean, how deflating is that? I mean, how do you operate knowing that we showed up and it didn't seem like it had much of an impact on the powers that be?
Yeah, it's long game, right? And the budget is it's the presidential budget, and you're like, it's the president, and this is how it's a bit more of like theater and messaging, right? The president, whoever it is, could say like, this is how I want to spend money. This is how it's going to be. But Congress is like, sit down, son.
Yeah.
We're the ones that decide how much money to spend and where to spend it and which agencies get it, what to invest in. And when the president and Congress is of the same party, is there more alignment? Sure. Is Congress going to take into account these things, certain things more seriously? Does this come from a president of their party? Yes. But is there like a direct connection between what a president just comes up with and what ends up happening? It's a couple of things along the way. And that's why Congress is like so important. They're the ones making the decision. And those are the people that are accountable to all of us. So like, you can't go in, like all of us can't talk to all senators or Congress people.
Right.
But there are a few of them that you can, and it adds up. So it's like, it's grim and it's deflating. And you're like, are you serious? This is the stuff you want to focus on?
Right.
But there is a play. There is a line to take. There is there is a response to that.
Yeah, I think that if some people would probably, especially in this administration particularly, kind of get concerned of it. Yeah, the president's overstepping his bounds in a lot of different ways, and Congress doesn't seem to be willing either side to sort of hold him to account. So when it comes to this, yeah, there's traditionally rules in place of like how this should go. At the same time, though, where I see if there's a positivity, and this is kind of a good segue into kind of our last thing about what should we do if we're going back on, okay, well, if public lands and getting outside and recreating is a kind of universal thing that is typically does not divisive, and there's going to be things in the plan that is going to be discussed for 2026 that is going to harm your ability, regardless of who you voted for in the last presidential election, to go do the things that you love. Oh, and hey, by the way, guess who's up for election in the midterms? Oh, it's your representative, it's your senator, those kinds of things. That's where the things can all start to kind of come together. And that's where I feel like if there's going to be times when potentially the the folks who are just kind of going along for the ride with our current president, maybe they'll start to jump off the ship and say, oh, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to get reelected unless I fix this. Okay. Or so.
You're totally right. You're totally right. And they're already doing it because they anticipate that 2026 is not that far away.
No, it's not.
And both Republicans and Democrats have pushed back on this administration with the approach they've been taking on public lands in terms of hiring with the layoffs and the rehiring and then layoffs again, especially with national parks. And some Republicans are overt about it in public, and some are not, but they're still doing it. And we're hearing that they're going back to the White House going like, what are you doing? You're killing me, man. Don't do this.
I like hearing that anecdote.
They won't say it. It's true. I mean, that's what we're hearing. And I take them at their word. So there is questioning. There is pushback. Is it as public as I'd like to see it?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But essentially what we're doing is like by showing up, you're putting weight in the scale. You're putting a price tag on the political decisions and the policy decisions that they're floating. And our job is to say this bad stuff, it's way expensive. It's too high a price to pay. That if you pursue these ideas, if you start selling off more public land, if you don't fund the agencies properly, the political cost is too high. And if they start thinking in those terms, then like, I'm going to lose my job over this. And not because they're like so overly self-interested, but their job is to represent the interests of their constituents.
Yes,
like, think of it
some of them
way.
Are pretty self-interested. Let's see.
Well, I mean, they are, but like they also like just being objective about it. Like they're like, what's the gig? It's like, well, you got 700,000 people that you have to represent their interests. So you got to figure out what they want, and then you got to show up in DC and like make decisions with them in mind, primarily. And that's like, it's hard to do. You can't talk to all of them.
Right.
But the ones that show up, you'd extrapolate, and people that show up through organizations or businesses, and they start modeling out like, what do my constituents really need, or what do they want? And I believe it does have an impact. They don't always make the same decisions that you'd like.
Yeah.
But like the worst thing is not showing up, not putting weight in the scale, because then it's free. Then they get to decide whatever they want. And that doesn't help them or us.
Well, so I guess last thing, we've mentioned a few things, but like, how should we show up? What can we do? Right. I get an email from you guys at the Outdoor Alliance encouraging me to reach out to Congress people. Yeah, I did and I do, but I'm in Southern California, and I'm pretty sure my Congress people are generally aligned with how I feel about these things. Is that all we can really do right now? What can an individual do at time right now when there is kind of some, people are worried and they're upset with what's happening?
Yeah. So keep doing that, Colin. If you get an email, every email we send, you got to open it up and you got to take action.
Okay. So one time's not enough, right? So if I've already done it once, do it again.
I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
I'll do it. You guys make it real easy to do, by the way. Anybody listening to this, click the link, and then you click another link, and basically that's all you got to do. It's real simple.
Well, yeah, that's our job. We're like, there's all this gobbledygook going on, and it's our responsibility to like translate it to like practically what does this mean and what can you do about it? And that's what we do all day, right? And that's why having 10 member organizations all representing their respective communities like working together, we've got like this kind of machine where we can like figure out, of all the swirl, like what's the most important and how to make it actionable if you're a kayaker or a surfer or a mountain biker. So yeah, staying up on the emails is important. And then you might say like, all right, my congressperson or senator, they're totally, we're a lock on everything I care about. But letting them know that, it gives them cover. It gives them some incentive. It makes it clear to them that this is valuable and they need to stand up for it. And then maybe take an extra step, push back a little harder on bad ideas, not just agree with you, but help them be a champ on this stuff, help them be a leader on this stuff. So whoever your representative is, dip in and check in with them and let them know what you think. Even if you don't like them, even if you didn't vote for them, they're still accountable to you.
Right.
So I think like the first step is just trying to stay as current as your interest and appetite permit. We try to make this stuff as accessible as possible, but just being aware, in tune of what's going on. And when the opportunities to take action present themselves, take action. And if you want to like level up, you want to make a phone call, like the emails are super easy. Phone calls are like super impactful. They got people that work at these offices, it's their job to answer the phones. And they keep lists of things and they keep checklists and then they have meetings. Like how many people called about this? How many people called about that? And that's how they extrapolate in terms of what's important. Town hall meetings, super, super important. Just showing up yourself or going with a group. And then if you got a certain tilt towards like, surfing or climbing or mountain biking, whatever your little subculture is, like be tuned into what's important to them. Because as a collective, you're able to get stuff done way more effective than if you're an individual. So it's like use that individual agency that you've got, but get your bearings and get your orientation from your friends and the people you care about and the people you respect.
Done. Let's do it.
All right, man. And then we'll go kayaking.
Yeah, as I say, all else fails, like fly out to DC. Adam will take you out in his boat. You go paddle the best paddling city in the world.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Stand by it. Whitewater.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for making some time to come on with us. I think I'm sure this topic's going to persist, so I hope hopefully we can do this again, maybe in the not too distant future.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you coming on. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, that's the show for today. Learn more about the Outdoor Alliance by heading to outdooralliance.org. Like I said at the top, we're going to be staying in touch with the Outdoor Alliance going forward. If something develops that you should be aware of, we'll be helping to get you that information here on The Rock Fight. And come back to The Rock Fight on Monday to hear producer Dave, Owen Comerford, and I run down the inaugural class of the Self-Inflicted Hall of Fame. Check out the latest from the Rock Fight Podcast Network, Open Container with Doug Schnitzbahn. Check out that show. And The Rock Fight is a production of Rock Fight LLC. I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And he's here to take us out. It's our guy, Chris DeMakes. He's going to sing the Rock Fight fight song right now. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
Rock fight.